joint movements when they do their exercises at home. Unfortunately, the global COVID-19 pandemic came and our lab has to be closed down for a few months. During this period, we were thinking how we can pivot the sensors for other applications. That is where we started to look into using the sensors as a gaming glove.
2 in a row, up, bam. Actually, as a gamer, it's actually faster to shoot like this instead of pressing on the...
That's really good. So that's how we want this to be more intuitive.
There you go, one more palm. I'm so used to this right now. So how does my action replicate the controller?
So what we have here is just one sensor on your index finger for shooting, but we can sensorize the whole hand so that you can have different functions on each of the fingers.
So I can like customize the Shoryuken by doing this?
Yes.
I can be a world champion again.
Once the sensors can be embedded into any kinds of fabric, this is where the magic can happen.
Yeah, great. This is really serious machine.
So with the data, you can see how much you press each button and the duration you spend to pressing each button and how fast you take to press the button.
So this is actually really good for like training purposes. To see what other stuff you have been doing wrong, like just from the chart. No more excuses for missing the combo. Wow, this is actually really going to the next level.
Is World Tonight.
Good evening, I'm Keith Liu. Tonight's top stories. Beijing denounces Taiwan President Tsai Ing-wen's double 10-day speech, saying it incites confrontation and distorts facts. Malaysia announces the easing of domestic and international travel curbs for those fully vaccinated against the coronavirus as inoculation rates rise. The Australian city of Sydney is set for its first taste of freedom after 4 months in lockdown. China has denounced Taiwan President Tsai Ing-wen's speech to mark Double 10 Day, with Beijing saying the address advocated for the island's independence, incited confrontation and distorted facts. The Chinese government adds that the call for independence is the greatest threat to peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait. Double 10 Day marks the anniversary of the 1911 uprising that ended imperial rule in China and led to the formation of the Republic of China. Ms. Tsai rarely mentions China directly in her public speeches, but this time round she acknowledges the increasing pressure faced by the island from Beijing. Her address came following a series of incursions into Taiwan's air defense zone by the mainland. Since coming to power, the Taiwan leader has made strengthening the island's defenses a cornerstone of her administration. Ms. Tsai warned that whatever happens to Taiwan will have major regional and global repercussions. She added that the path Beijing has laid out for the island is neither free nor democratic, and insisted Taiwan will not bow to pressure by China and will defend its democratic way of life.
我也要强调，两岸解决分歧必须透过平等对话。我们期待两岸关系和缓，我们不会冒进，但绝对不要认为台湾人民会在压力下屈服。
Her speech comes a day after Chinese President Xi Jinping said reunification with Taiwan must happen but will be peaceful. Malaysia will lift movement curbs for its citizens today. Interstate travel will be allowed for the first time in more than half a year. Fully vaccinated Malaysians will be able to travel freely without police permission. Prime Minister Ismail Sabri made the announcement as 90% of the adult population has been fully vaccinated. The lifting of travel curbs comes as a relief for Malaysians, as Melissa Goh reports.
It is very much anticipated by the people because many haven't been able to travel back to their home states to visit their families for over half a year now. So it is a wonderful relief for those fully vaccinated, because those unvaccinated, they are not supposed to cross state lines. There are about less than 10% of the adults still unvaccinated. Children, however, can travel provided their parents are fully vaccinated. Indeed, also a welcome relief for the domestic tourism sector, because many hotels and restaurants and the transport sector as well have been reeling under the protracted lockdown. That, many Malaysians who've been wishing to travel overseas, they no longer need to apply for a special pass. They can do so now provided they are fully vaccinated with 2 doses, but they need to undergo mandatory 2 weeks quarantine when they get back home. It's a major step as the country gradually reopens to save the people's livelihoods, the economy, while making sure that the public can get back to their normal way of life as much as possible without putting public health at risk. Ultimately, the Prime Minister, Mr. Ismail Sabri, reminded that the people must be responsible and adhere to the SOPs and the protocols. Police will still be making their rounds, their random checks, although there won't be roadblocks like before. Those flouting the laws can be fined on the spot and face possible jail terms.
The 2-day talks between the Taliban and a U.S. delegation in Doha have ended, with more discussions set to begin with European Union representatives. It was the first in-person meeting between the Taliban and the U.S. since American troops pulled out of the country in August. The focus of the Doha talks was on containing extremist groups evacuating U.S. citizens and humanitarian aid. The Taliban had warned the U.S. not to destabilize its regime in Afghanistan and called on Washington to lift a ban on foreign reserves. Afghanistan's Taliban-appointed foreign minister says both sides have already agreed to uphold the terms of the 2020 Doha Agreement. The deal includes the Taliban's broad obligation to prevent extremist groups such as Al-Qaeda from threatening the security of the U.S. and its allies. The minister says Washington has also agreed to supply Afghanistan with humanitarian aid, including COVID-19 vaccines. The U.S. has not commented on the talks, but prior to the meeting, American officials said the meetings are a continuation of engagement with the Taliban on matters of national interest. They clarified that the meetings are not about giving legitimacy to the Taliban government. A group of Afghan women activists were out to get their voices heard. They gathered in Kabul, declaring October 10th as the International Day of Women's Solidarity with Afghan Women. Demanding rights from the Taliban government, they urged women around the world to join them in their protest. The demonstration and news conference was organized by the Afghan Women's Political Participation Network. The Taliban takeover in August saw moves to segregate and push women out of public life. And this comes despite the militant group promising to respect women's rights to work and education. It's not the first time women have rallied against the Taliban.
وزرایی که فعلا در فعال مدنی بودند یا در زندان‌های بودند در بخش‌های حقوق سرانگالان بودند تمام آزاد زیر تهدید هستند و هیچ کسشون صدای خود کشیده نمیتونن و حتی بعضی ایشون هستن که از خانه بیرون شده نمیتونن مشکلاتی که دارن.
Still to come, the son of an Indian minister arrested on preliminary charges of murder after the death of 8 people during a farmers' protest sparked national outrage. Pakistan mourns the loss of the father of its nuclear program.
Rediscover passions this October. Examine how the once undisputed king of the gaming world is fighting back to dominate the industry again. Follow the individuals who found a creative spark in the midst of the darkness. Meet the people who have found a way to juggle their passion and their work. Why do they do it? This October on CMA, breaking news.
wanting for Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha to step down.
We will be seeing sporadic protests flare up from time and time again.
Key developments,
37th ASEAN Summit,
live events, analysis and perspectives.
We will really be seeing vaccines soon.
Imports, which were expected to grow slightly, contracted 2.1%.
News that matters. Asia Now, daily. On CNA. The challenge, to ensure economic development without depleting natural resources.
Back in the days, we don't really talk about sustainability.
There are great challenges in front of us.
Find out what's at stake and the solutions within our reach.
The sky, or rather the ocean, is the limit.
And only future will tell us how successful we are going to be.
Your brand new documentary destination, Sustainability and Survival. Mondays, only on CNA.
Even more amazing experiences await you in Thailand. Amazing Thailand.
The son of India's junior Home Affairs Minister has been arrested on preliminary charges of murder a week after the death of 8 people during a farmers' protest sparked national outrage. Farmers claimed that a convoy belonging to Ashish Mishra and his father slammed into protesters, killing 4 of them. The farmers were part of India's longest-running agricultural protest. They oppose laws that they fear will reduce guaranteed minimum prices for their crops. Mr. Mishra was detained in the northern state of Uttar Pradesh on Saturday after police questioned him for more than 10 hours. He did not respond to a police summons on Friday. Authorities say he was uncooperative and evasive during the interrogation. While Minister R.J. Mishra has admitted to owning a vehicle in the convoy that rammed into the farmers, he has insisted that his son was not in the car during the incident. Ashish Mishra will face court today. The Supreme Court had questioned the UP government and police's handling of the case. Pakistani nuclear scientist Abdul Qadir Khan has died. He was 85. Mr. Khan died after transferring from a hospital in Islamabad where he had recently been hospitalized with COVID-19. Revered as the father of Pakistan's nuclear program, Mr. Khan was hailed as a national hero for making his country the world's first Islamic nuclear power. But he was regarded by the West as a dangerous renegade for sharing technology with Iran and North Korea. His death has sparked an outpouring of grief and praise for Khan's legacy. Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan says he will be buried at Islamabad's majestic Faisal Mosque at his request. South Korea's ruling party has named its presidential candidate for next year's election. Lee Jae-myung sealed victory in the primary to represent the Democratic Party. It comes despite him being dogged by a scandal involving a residential development plan.
국회의원 경력 한 번 없는 변방의 아웃사이더입니다. 그런 이재명에게 집권 여당 대통령 후보라는 막중한 임무를 맡겨주셨습니다.
Mr. Lee is the governor of Gyeonggi province, surrounding the capital, Seoul. He's often critical of incumbent President Moon Jae-in. His approach is focused on an aggressive COVID-19 response and a populist economic agenda. Mr. Lee has also vowed to push for universal basic income and more affordable housing. He secured a little over 50% of the votes, defeating an initially established favorite, former Prime Minister Lee Nak-yong. Voters across Iraq have cast their ballots, but many people there said they would boycott the parliamentary election as there's little hope for political change. The polls were held 6 months early in response to mass anti-government protests 2 years ago when hundreds were killed. More than 25 million citizens were eligible to vote. Turnout was reportedly low amid widespread distrust of reform promises. The old electoral system based on party lists has been replaced with one designed to help independent candidates. However, the Shiite Muslim ruling elite is expected to sweep the vote. And this is the fifth election in Iraq after the fall of Saddam Hussein, which followed the 2003 U.S. invasion.
والله أترجى من الحكومة أن تفيد هذا الشعب، والشعب تعبان وأريدهم أن يقدمون خدمة لخدمة هذا الموصل مدمرة دمروها الدواعش الإرهابية، ونتمنى من الحكومة أن ترعانا وترعى الشعب عامة.
بعدنا يمكن بلدنا حتى القيادات ما يستلمون من الديمقراطية، هذه محاولة نتأمل يعني يصير في التغيير. أما إذا يعني إحنا ننتظر كل تغيير ويصير كل مشاكل ما يبقى، ما يصير هذا. بس إحنا نريد نشوف يعني في التغيير نشوف.
A plane crash in central Russia left 16 people dead and 6 others seriously injured. The twin-engine turboprop was carrying a group of parachute jumpers. The pilots reported engine trouble soon after takeoff and made an emergency landing in the Tatarstan region. But it hit a vehicle and overturned as it descended. Investigations are ongoing. The president of the Czech Republic, Miloš Zeman, has been admitted to the intensive care unit of Prague's military university hospital. It comes a day after the parliamentary elections. His doctors, they say they cannot publicize their diagnosis yet, and it is not currently known why he has been admitted. It comes at a time when Mr. Zeman has a key role in establishing a new government with the right to choose the country's new prime minister. Mr. Zeman indicated he would first appoint the leader of the strongest party to try to form the government. Well, here's a look at some of the other stories we're tracking for you on CNA Digital. India's government says the country has ample coal stocks to meet the demands of its power plants amid fears that a blackout is imminent. It adds that coal-powered plants have about 7 million tons of coal in stock, which is sufficient for 4 days. Hundreds of people in the Indian-administered region of Kashmir have been detained by police. The arrests are part of an investigation by Indian authorities following a spate of targeted killings in the past week. Japan's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida says he has no plans to change the country's taxes on capital gains and dividends for now. Mr. Kishida intends to pursue other steps for better wealth distribution, such as raising wages of medical workers. Spain has started a new evacuation operation to pull out more Afghans following the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan in August. Authorities are aiming to get some 200 people out via Pakistan. And Italian police have arrested 12 people, including leaders of the extreme right-wing party Forza Nuova, following an anti-vaccination protest. And this comes a day after clashes in Rome over the government drive to make a COVID-19 Green Pass mandatory for all workers. Now you can keep up with news in Asia and beyond 24/7 on CNA Digital. Still to come, new health protocols expected to ease pressure on GP clinics in Singapore. And how going online can help youths struggle with mental health issues.
I've just finished an 8-hour shift and I'm going to meet a brave little girl to make her wish come true.